Doctor, the floor is yours. Please give us a brief about chemical engineering before students can start asking questions regarding the major.
Okay, so I would assume that most of the students are in the freshman year, and most of them are taking chemistry. So if you are already taking chemistry, you probably know what is chemistry about. It's about taking a unit or a material and converting it into something that is more useful, something that can be produced in a much larger amount, right? So you are starting from one material and you are ending to something that is more useful for a couple of reasons, right? Let's say you want to produce a medicine, you want to create a new material. As engineers, the only difference, or a major difference actually, comes from the idea that we are doing this in a huge scale, right? So when you are thinking about a single reaction, right? When you think about a single reaction, you are thinking about just a small amount. That is, let's say you have a flask or a beaker, right? And you are trying to just do that particular reaction. Now, when you think about a huge scale, try maybe, I don't know, 1 million times bigger. So you will have to think about everything that is different. It's not only the chemical reaction itself. You will have to think about the volume that you are trying to create. You will have to think about the fluid motion, right? Now, it wouldn't be the same just having 1 liter compared to 1 million. It wouldn't be the same in terms of the temperature control, pressure control, all the additional complication that comes with it. So this is, in general, the information about chemical engineering. Dr. Mariam, do you want to add something on this?
Thank you for the, the precise and concise description, Dr. Ali. I just want to add maybe that chemical engineering, just to elaborate more on what Dr. Ali stated, it's mostly about designing processes properly that can produce large-scale amounts of the products that we're interested in. But we do also have chemical engineers who work in labs designing the properties of certain materials. So it's a very versatile major, and it overlaps a lot with material science, for example. So you could end, if you like working in the lab designing materials, films, coatings, whatever, that could also be an option. But mostly, the major is about process design. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam, for the addition. So there are different topics within chemical engineering itself, and some of them are actually mentioned here. So yes, we are talking about chemistry, but sometimes it's not only particular to reactions. This can involve a wide variation of things. So anytime you can think of a materials, so if you think about polymers, bottled waters, this is essentially part of chemical engineering. If you are trying to separate components, so if you think about, let's say, distillation column. So let's say you have the huge oil, you are getting it out of the ground, and you are trying to separate it into the different components. This is essentially separation from chemical engineering. You are trying to convert something to produce more energy, right? So let's say you have hot steam or hot water, and you are trying to extract energy out of this. This is also chemical engineering. So the field is wide. And while I and Dr. Mariam are on the same chemical engineering, we work on vastly different things. So it's a huge variation within the same field. So this is chemical engineering.
This is very interesting, Dr. Ali and Dr. Mariam. If I may start the questions regarding, let's say I'm a fresh graduate of chemical engineering. What kind of positions are there for me to start my career? What kind of industries that accepts me? What kind of organizations?
Okay, so as a freshman student, probably you still have all the choices in front of you. And it depends actually on where is your target. As chemical engineer, you will have a variation of targets. So you can, let's say you want to go in ADNOC, you will have that option. So this is oil and derivatives. You want pharmaceuticals. That's an option. You want, let's say, Dubai, for example, Dubai and EMAL. This is aluminum processing. You want to go to, let's say, nuclear, which is Baraka and Fener, and the remaining, they also require chemical engineers. Dr. Mariam, do you want to add?
Yeah, I
There
mean,
is, for example,
more or
also
less, really, it's every industry, more or less. I mean, cosmetics, for example, also pharmaceutical, even in designing, for example, equipment for medical applications. This, okay, maybe overlaps with biomedical engineering, but they also require expertise from materials perspective. So chemical engineers could come there basically. So more or less, I would say almost in every major you would find a demand for chemical engineers. It's not just this traditional oil and gas for sure. As Dr. Ali already, he mentioned a few options.
All right, so this includes even electronics as well, like solar energy.
True. Yeah. I actually know people who I used to work with, and they're working for designing ships, basically, for companies like Intel, for example, or so on. So even electronic devices, yes, they can take people with a chemical engineering background.
This is interesting. So what's the difference, speaking about oil and gas, what's the difference between chemical engineering and petroleum engineering?
Dr. Ali, you want to go ahead?
Sure. So there is a couple of differences there. So petroleum engineering, they usually focus on what happened when the petrol is, or the oil is underground. So they focus on, let's say, this is the reservoir. How do we detect that there is a reservoir? So this is a mix between geoscience and petroleum. And then how do you extract it? So they will think more about the design of the wellbore, which is the connection between the reservoir and the surface. They will think about the required pressure. How do you maintain it? As chemical engineers, once it is out of the ground, we'll look at a couple of this. I'll come back to it. But once it is out of the ground, as chemical engineers, we have to think about how do you separate the oil into different components, right? So, and how do you transport it? Transport it, right? So let's say you have the oil. It's very heavy. It contains thousands of materials or components. And now some of them might be problematic, right? So an example of this, the heaviest one is the asphalt on the road, right?
Yes.
So you want this asphalt not to cause a problem for you. So what do? You want to separate it before you send it, right? And then after you send it to, let's say, a unit, you are trying to separate into different components. So how do you separate the very light component, like the methane, ethane? How do you separate it from gasoline? Or how do you separate it from, let's say, kerosene, and so on? So this is one major difference. We also, of course, sometimes work with them for the oil underground. How do you extract additional oil from the ground? So as chemical engineer, just one last point is, as chemical engineer, you'll always be working with other engineers. It's not like you will be doing the entire job. Your job is, of course, complementary with their jobs. There will be always part that you are overlapping. You will have similar expertise, or your expertise will cover for their expertise.
That was actually my next question, and you already answered that. So students, I need you to ask as much questions as you can. As I say always, you're coming up with one of the most important decisions in your life, which is choosing actually your major and your future career. So you must have questions, right? So if you would like to turn on the mic and ask, you're more than welcome, or you can write it down in the chat and I will read it for you. So Hoda here started the questions. Are there research opportunities available for undergraduates?
The answer is definitely yes. Now, depending on the program and this depends on a couple of factors. Previously, there was a course that was called independent study, where you will have to do research and will count it. Now, slightly is different, but there is still research opportunities. Dr. Mariam, do you want to add something on this?
Yeah, I mean, anyone definitely who is interested and would like to learn more about research, even if it's not within a course, I mean, faculty are always happy to accommodate them in their labs. So if the student has the interest, just feel free to approach any of the faculty members that you know, and you can discuss opportunities with them. So it's not, I mean, it happened before, it's not impossible. I mean, I had an undergraduate student who was just working because she was interested to learn more about what I do in the lab, for example. So she spent a semester or so. In her free time, she would stop by and do some experiments, and we discuss the results and so on. So that's definitely an option, yes.
Yeah, that's true. So in terms of research opportunity, you can approach every single professor in the department, and he will always be happy to include you. We are actually trying to have it more to be included in the topics so that it will count as a credit. But outside the credit limit, for sure you can have it.
Great. And Murad is asking, which minor complements the chemical engineering major best? What minors do you guys recommend?
I think chemistry would be good. Biomedical engineering would also be an option. So these two, I see them, for example, as the closest, but definitely maybe something like, what do you call it, artificial intelligence also is an option. So there are a few options.
Okay, so just to add on this, currently there are 4 offered minors. These are AI, artificial intelligence, nuclear energy, business, and mechatronics. The 2 closest, I would say for sure, are nuclear and AI. Business is still valuable if you have interest in business. Mm-hmm. The least relevant probably is mechatronics, more relevant to electrical and mechanical. There will be more minors coming up, so there is a plan to offer two more minors soon, and I think one of them will be in bio. So that will also complement really well.
Okay, so Moses is asking a question that is always in my mind as well. I thought chemical engineering is all about chemistry. Is that not true?
Not true.
Yeah, I'm always confused.
No, it's not true. I mean, if you look at, for example, the curriculum for chemical engineering, we only teach chemistry in the freshman year. After the freshman and then organic courses maybe in sophomore, and then that's it. So chemical engineering is slightly different than chemistry. There is definitely a big chemistry component, but it involves a lot of what Dr. Ali discussed in details a while ago: separations, thermodynamics, reaction engineering, all that stuff you don't see in chemistry. So you need chemistry background, but it's not only chemistry, it's engineering. So you need also physics, you need strong mathematics. So,
okay.
So there's heat transfer, there's mass transfer, all that stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Mariam, for the clarification. So as I mentioned before, your job is, yes, you will have lots of expertise in chemistry, but your job is to design the equipment surrounding the chemistry, right? So you will have to think about everything about how the fluid will move from point A until the end of the process. So you need, of course, to know the chemistry behind it, but your aim is how do you make it controlled? How do you make it to the most efficient design? So you will be looking more from an engineering perspective, not from the chemistry perspective by itself. So think about chemical engineering as chemistry with math and little physics with it.
Mm-hmm. Huda is also asking, is it better to major in chemical engineering or I believe biomedical engineering to continue in the medical field? So if she's interested in the medical field, is it better to go in chemical engineering or biomedical engineering?
I wouldn't say there's a better and a worse, but I mean both are options. I have chemical engineering students who got admitted to the medicine program in KU. So it's, I mean, it is an option for sure. So I wouldn't say there's a better and a worse, but if she's more aligned towards biomedical engineering, like engineering equipment and stuff for medical applications, then definitely she can go for biomedical engineering. But both are options.
Okay. We have our, we don't know your name. Please write your name in the chat and your ID, please, so we can track your attendance. So she's asking, or he's asking, I heard that majority of chemical engineering graduates in the UAE work in chemical plants located in Ruwais or Baraka. Is this true, or there are many other opportunities in the UAE?
Okay,
this
so
is a very good question. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Ali. Very good question.
As I mentioned before, it depends on where do you exactly want to work. So most of the stuff that are on Ruwais, of course, belongs to ADNOC. So this includes unit from ADCO, Gasco, Takrir, Borouge, right? And these of course work on different variation of the oil. So Borouge is polymer, Gasco is gas, of course, ADCO is oil, and then Takrir is refining. And of course, Baraka is mostly for nuclear. Now, there are many more opportunities in UAE. Again, this also depends on where are you exactly located. So there are, for example, some here, Imal, for example, there is Dubal, which are in Abu Dhabi. There is, if you are working, let's say, as a process engineer, optimization, you can also go work on the headquarters for the design of the equipment. This is also ADNOC. If you are working cosmetics, if you are working in continuing research, if you are working, let's say, in solar energy in Masdar, so this is renewables. If you are working, what else there is here? There is DUCAB, which is in Dubai for Dubai cables. This also comes from the material. There is TII, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. They also do lots of research around the materials development, and this is also located in Abu Dhabi. So there are more options. This does not necessarily have to be either Ruwais or Baraka. There are lots of other options. And these options are actually similar for even the other couple of engineering departments.
Okay, Huda is asking, do chemical engineers focus on physics more than chemistry? What about physics and chemical engineering, doctor?
Dr. Mariam, you want to answer?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, both have the same weight roughly in chemical engineering. So, I mean, in the first year, the students will take 2 courses in chemistry and then 2 in organic chemistry, and they take overall 2 courses in physics. So actually, maybe the weight on the chemistry is a little bit more because it's 4 courses versus 2. I mean, they need to learn both subjects. I think in chemical engineering, we teach most of the chemistry courses compared to other engineering majors, but all other engineering majors will take physics 1 and physics 2 as well. But I think for chemistry, they only take chemistry 1, chemistry 2. We give them additionally organic chemistry 1 and organic chemistry 2. So it's not a focus more on physics, no, more a little bit on chemistry, but both subjects are just taught at the beginning. Later on, you will not really be learning about physics and chemistry, more about engineering.
Right. Just to add on Dr. Mariam's point, actually organic 1 and organic 2 were merged, so now it's one course.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying this. I didn't know this.
Yeah. So, as Dr. Mariam said, probably in chemical engineering, you'll be focusing more on chemistry than on physics. Physics, I think for everybody, they will be taking chemistry 1, physics 1, and physics 2. As chemical engineers, and I think maybe petroleum also,
yes,
they take chemistry 2. And then our something else that we take is organic chemistry. So we want you to understand the organic part of it.
Okay, so Moses asking, you previously said there are a lot of sectors to chemical engineering. Are we going to pick later, or we'll have to go through all of them? Yeah, I think she means the specialization.
Okay, so just on this part, now, when you enter chemical engineering, we are teaching you something that can work in many different fields, right, of chemical engineering. Right now, the requirement for, let's say, ADNOC is different than the requirement of, let's say, Baraka is different than the requirement if you want to work on something related to biotechnology. Is different than if you want to work for renewables, let's say solar energy or renewables in general. Is different than if you want to work for hydrogen. So there are different variations within it itself, right? Now, we teach you the main courses, which are the core courses, but there are 4 courses which are optional. Well, optional in what you choose out of them. So there are 4 technical electives, and you will have to select them depending on where do you want to go next. If you want to go in nuclear and you take a minor in nuclear, let's say this is your end goal, then you can take, let's say, 2 of them to be in nuclear. Okay. Let's say you want to go and to work in ADNOC, then you can take 3 or 4 of them to be all in oil industry, right? We have lots. We are actually working more on this, but there is what we call concentration. So by your senior year, you probably will have better idea of where do you want to go. And so by your senior year, you will be looking at which courses do you want. So the concentration currently are, I think, one is in renewables. One is, Dr. Mariam, do you know the list of concentrations that we have?
I think there is one, as you said, on sustainable energy. There's one on materials, I believe. And then we were discussing last time one on hydrogen. Yeah,
so one in hydrogen. There is also one in
energy and material. One is on energy, one is on materials.
Yeah, that's true. There is also one which is in biotechnology. So this includes food processing, food technology. It also includes bioseparation, biomedical.
Mm-hmm. And but just to add, if I can, Dr. Ali, just to clarify here, these, I mean, the differences between these concentrations will only be in the sense of the electives that you choose. So for I mean, there are always major chemical engineering courses that every chemical engineering student should take. But let's say one student prefers to learn more about energy, for example, then he or she can pick the electives to be from courses related to energy, and then they will have a what do you call it, a concentration in that topic. But major courses are major courses. All students are expected to take separations, energy balance, I mean, mass transfer, heat transfer, and all that stuff.
Right. Just one last point to add on Dr. Mariam. So there are different levels. So the major is, of course, is chemical engineering. There is a minor, which we mentioned before. This is slightly below the minor. It's concentration. It's a focus area. So let's say you want to end up working in a certain area. It's usually preferable to take on that particular area. If you want general knowledge, let's say you want knowledge about nanotechnology, knowledge about hydrogen, knowledge about oil, then you can take them from different courses.
Great. Matar Sultan, he's asking, what about being sponsored? He's asking about sponsorships by organizations or companies in UAE. He said before 5 years, there are sponsoring programs from EGA. What are the new programs like that they can apply for?
I think this question would be better directed to the registration office, I believe. I'm not sure, because I mean, these companies, they keep on changing their interests, and they might be interested in certain majors from time to time. So I personally don't have updates on this, but I don't know if Dr. Ali has more information.
I think it's the same. Probably reaching out to the admission.
I think if you are interested in sponsorship programs to know about them, please send me an email, because I believe I'm new with Khalifa University, but I believe that it falls under student services. So send me an email. You'll see my email below, or you just highlight on my name, you'll see my email. And I will definitely help you with this. I will check if there are any available opportunities and what are the procedures for that.
Yeah, because usually, as far as I know, this is, as we said, with admissions or student services, as you mentioned, Hammam. So they usually have, well, before COVID at least, they used to have a separate booth in the in the majors day or so. So they show the students all the different opportunities they have, and there is usually more than one opportunity. But we don't get this information. So this is on a university level.
Absolutely. Matar is also asking when we will choose our major. By which year we can choose the major? I think he means the specialty. Do you mean the specialty, Matar?
I think he means the general major, right?
Okay.
So if he's talking about the declaration of the major, I'm not sure whether it is the first or the second semester. But you should be receiving an email on when is the deadline for the declaration. I think it should be next week for some students who are either, I'm not sure what is the policy from the university, but for some students it will be definitely next week.
Okay, so Fatma is also asking about sponsorships. Again, send me an email, Fatma, regarding sponsorship, and I will follow up on that.
I think it might be better if you write your email.
Yes, I will write it down here.
Okay, somebody already.
Somebody wrote it for you.
Thank you, Hassan. Okay, Matar, he responded, he said the general major.
Yeah, so is the same major that we were talking about. So that would be the chemical engineering in the case you were chemical or any other major.
And definitely it has to be done. I mean, Dr. Ali is saying probably by next week, but definitely it has to be done before the end of your first year, because first year is where you take common courses between majors. In the sophomore year, you start taking chemical engineering major courses. So probably the university has a rule on this, but definitely you should have things clear before your second year.
Yes, he's saying he's on the foundation semester.
Yeah, then you still have time. I think first semester in the major is fine. All courses are the same for any major.
Okay, I think we have another one who's saying it's the first. As far as I remember, it would be either at the end of the first or the second, because some students also take principles on the second semester. So it might be after the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And again, this information should be known more from it's on university level. So all the university will have the same information. So I would think
registration. Yeah. Guys, if there's any question that we couldn't answer it here, I will definitely be happy to help you about regarding registration, when to register, sponsorships. You have my email. Please send me the email and I'll direct you to the right person.
Hassan has a question.
If my concentration, this is Hassan, if my concentration on energy, what is the options other than Masdar?
There are other options. I mean, if you don't want Masdar renewable energies, there's ADNOC oil and gas. So, I mean, energy is either oil and gas or renewable. These are the two big industries. طبعا there are other companies, but these are the biggest companies in the country. But you could work for, I mean, international companies like Total, Shell, all those companies. So, but they're more into oil and gas. So it's either oil and gas or renewable energies.
Yeah, this also includes, by the way, nuclear. So
yes, sorry, yes, nuclear. You're right. Yes.
Yeah, so nuclear, there is more now on hydrogen. So they will be opening some units on hydrogen. You can work. By the way, when I mentioned the chemical engineering opportunity before, I was mentioning mostly the UAE companies, but there are lots of non-UAE companies or international companies that are based here in UAE. And they have lots of opportunities. So this includes Baker Hughes, Shell, Total,
General Electric, I think.
General Electric. Yeah, there are variation. IBM, Microsoft, all of these also have chemical engineering division where they would do lots of the work here.
Okay, Dr. Ali and Dr. Mariam, I have a question. Let's say you are working with let's say you're working with ADNOC or one of the top oil and gas or chemical companies in the country, and you have a position for a fresh graduate. You received 2 CVs. One of them is GPA 4, but that's it. And one of them is GPA 3, but he or she has extracurricular activities, events, participating with university clubs, so many other activities there. Which one you prefer?
I think honestly, it's not only about the CV. Also, usually an interview is conducted.
Definitely,
And
yes.
yeah, and based on the questions and the topics discussed in the interview, a decision would be made. So I wouldn't say that it's completely based on the GPA, neither completely based only on the extracurricular activities. Having both definitely are excellent. But at the end, also the character of the student, their interest, their motivation, their knowledge, their foundation makes a difference.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Dr.
just
Ali, do you want to add? Yeah.
I think also it's based on the role that the students will be taking or the fresh graduate will be taking. If it is more research oriented, maybe the guy with more research or with higher knowledge in the area might be more relevant. If it is somebody who is in, let's say, supervisor position, or let's say in outside technical fields, let's say process design and so on. So maybe the less GPA would be more relevant. And again, it depends on all couple of other factors.
Right.
But having both definitely is helpful.
What I wanted to say is for our students, guys, yes, your studies are very important. Your high GPA is very important, but you also need to focus on developing your personality throughout the years, your skills that you can, when you participate with any event, when you be a part of any activity in the university or outside, this is great for your own skill development. So I want you also to focus on this, because it will make a big difference when you're meeting with employers, when you're meeting with your future manager, or in any of the interviews. So back to the questions, Hassan. I'm not sure, Hassan, you put some positions there.
You put a list.
A list of positions. Okay, so if my concentration is on energy, what is the options? I'm not sure, Hassan, what is exactly your question? Fatima?
I think for Hassan, he's asking about like are these
possible employee, yeah. Possible jobs, maybe job titles.
Yeah, he's saying, can we really specialize in any of these sectors?
Yep.
Yeah, that all of them are within our department. So there are actually many more than this. It depends on where do you end up, and that's why when we teach the core courses, they are for every single one. And then depending on where do you want to end up, you can end up from process engineer to quality engineer to safety engineer to research engineer to product. So you can end up from, you can see there is a product engineer and below there is sales and marketing engineer, right? So they are widely different, of course. So that's why it depends on what exactly is your expertise and where do you want to end up with. So, but all of them, yes, they are within chemical engineering.
Okay, Fatima, if I will study chemical engineering and I will take nuclear engineering minor, the studying years will be longer or it will be as normal?
So usually a minor does not add up to the number of years.
Yeah.
It's just that she needs, I think as Dr. Ali elaborated on this, apparently there are certain majors that can be taken as minors, not all, but I think Dr. Ali, you mentioned nuclear as one, right?
Yeah, so for chemical engineers, you are required to take 136 credits, and this approximately takes 4 years. Now, if you want to take a minor in nuclear, you will need 12 additional credits. So this will be 148. Depending on how are you planning your every single semester, you can either finish it in 4 years, or sometimes 4 years and the summer, or if you are doing it little by little, it may take 1 additional semester, but not more than an additional semester. So maximum will be 1 additional if you are not planning it correctly from the beginning. But if you want to end up in nuclear, then it may be worth it, depending on, again, what is your plan afterward.
This is great. I think this is one of the highest number of attendees this session.
Well,
So
glad to hear.
Yeah.
This shows that many people are considering chemical engineering.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Since we have this number, I actually want to add one thing, is chemical engineering is probably one of the top department in the entire of KU in terms of the ranking of the department.
Okay. Yeah.
So Dr. Mariam, do you have the numbers on the ranking of chemical engineering?
Honestly, I don't have them on hand now, but I mean, if they just, I think, check the KU website, I think they mention all the details about the Shanghai ranking and where we are there. But I think our department is probably the only one that made it even to that ranking.
Right. Last year or the year before, it was actually number 77 on that ranking, and was the only department that is above 100 in the Shanghai ranking.
Which is something, I mean, very good, incredible, really.
Yeah. Well, it means 2 things. One, the department is really good, so this is very high level. But second is you really need to work hard.
Yes. So R is asking, R again, I don't know the name, sorry about that. So this is a question that was actually in my mind. Can I minor in AI? You said yes, Dr. Ali, you said there is a minor in AI. If I major in chemical engineering, or are they irrelevant to each other? Can you, Dr. Ali, tell us how is it relevant? Because you said there is a minor of AI.
Yeah, so the minor, by the way, to all the department, it's, and if you are, let's say, in aerospace and you want to take, let's say, a minor in mechatronics, you can still do it. There is no, the minor is offered to all the universities.
All majors.
It just fits well with some majors more than the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are in chemical and you want to take a minor in AI, since you are still in the freshman year, the requirement again for chemical engineering is 136. If you are planning it well, you will only need to take 15 additional credit. For this, I would assume it is 1 additional semester, probably. So, but you can still do it with correct, choosing the courses in the correct way. In terms of AI, there are actually lots of applications in chemical engineering. I'm also in that particular field, where we are using AI for certain models. So an example of this is, let's say you want to model a certain system, a separation of two components. Okay. Usually you will model it based on thermodynamics in certain situation, but sometimes having more data or more information about the case would be helpful. So in this case, coming up with a model using AI might be more helpful. So there are many models that are based on AI that we use currently in chemical engineering. Well, currently not as much, but it will be more and more. We are working on this. But it's definitely helpful, and it definitely open a different road inside chemical engineering. I actually recommended a couple of students to take AI, and they were from chemical.
Okay. Matter is also advising that this means more career opportunities, like when you take a minor in something that may be less relevant, but still it opens more opportunities for you in the future. We have Huda, she's saying, I think we answered this, but is it possible to minor in biomedical and major in chemical engineering?
Okay, so for this one, okay, I just see the note. For the major itself, there are a couple of options actually. There is double major. We never mentioned this, I think, today, but there is a double major, and you can take a double major if you want. Let's say you want to take chemical, I don't know, another one, aerospace, bio, whatever it is. This is one option. The second option is you take a major in chemical and then a minor in something else, which currently they are the 4, but they are planning to offer 2 more. One of them is biotechnology. I don't think you can take a minor in biomedical since this is not offered yet.
Okay.
So this is still out. They are planning to offer it, I think, by the end of the year, a minor in biotechnology, but I don't want to promise something and it's not there yet.
Definitely, yes. Fatima is asking a relevant question. When can I register in minor? In which semester?
Okay, so for the minor, probably in your sophomore 2. So this will be, okay, so this is probably around sophomore 2. That will be the most appropriate one. It depends on the minor that you want to select, but I would say between sophomore 2 and junior 1, no more than junior 2. If you are registering in junior 2, you might be slightly late unless you are registering for business. But any other than business, I would say sophomore 2 or junior 1 is probably the last time you can, or the latest you can register for it.
Dr. Ali, can I ask a question here? I mean, is a formal registration for the minor required?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So you will have to sign, and you need to get the approval from the advisor, from and then from. So let's say you want for AI, then you need to get it from AI department approval. So what they want to look at is they want to look at are you already knowing what you are getting into, or are you just saying I want to get an AI and then I'm not planning anything ahead, for example, right? So if you let's say you are getting into AI or nuclear or whatever, then they want to know that you already thought of the plan and how do you plan to take the courses. Otherwise, you may be there for longer than expected.
I think the academic advisor can be a great source of knowledge here, great guidance.
Yeah, so the advisor is definitely helpful in any of these, and you can always reach out to me if there is any question regarding this. I would advise all of you, once you declare your major, to go ahead and put a detailed plan on what courses are you planning to take for what semester. If you are joining chemical engineering and you are declaring chemical engineering, we will have a session on this probably in the beginning of April on how do you determine which course should you take and when do you take it. But if you are joining any other one, still you will need to think about a detailed plan on when are you planning to graduate and how are you planning to do it. This will also help you to look at whether you have spaces in your plan and can you fit anything within these spaces.
Great. Students, you have any more questions for Dr. Ali and Dr. Mariam? Would companies such as ADIA, which is Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, accept students who major in chemical engineering?
Well, I know they do, but I don't know if you want to go there. I mean, they definitely accepted. I have colleagues who graduated with me and they ended up in ADIA. So if this is something you want, but the question is, if you want to work in ADIA, why major in chemical engineering in the first place? Because that person, for example, never used her chemical engineering again. So I think you need to think really, if you want to study chemical engineering, then probably you need, or you're willing to use what you studied and the knowledge in chemical engineering, right? Not just put it aside and just start working on something completely different. So, but it's possible. I know someone who is actually working in ADIA right now, and she graduated from chemical engineering. It's not something I would recommend, though.
Thank you, Dr. Mariam. Just to add on this, actually, a couple of our colleagues, by the way, Dr. Mariam and I graduated in the same year, so that's why.
Yeah.
So a couple of our colleagues are actually in ADIA, and a couple of them, I think, are in Mubadala. One of the top guys in Mubadala is our colleague who graduated before. So it's possible. Yes, I wouldn't recommend to go directly to that if you are special, unless you have your reason. It might be helpful at that point, maybe to take a minor, let's say, in business if you want to continue on that direction.
Okay. Hassan, is it okay to consider double major or master? So double major or master, what do you think?
Interesting question.
Dr. Mariam, do you have?
Interesting question. I would personally think that, and again, that's a personal view, if you are considering a master's degree, then I think go for a master's instead of the double major. But that's just a personal view. If you just want to graduate with your bachelor's, double major, and then go for work, that's a different scenario. So.
Yeah, that's true. I would also, if you are doing double major, you will find actually the information in the catalog. You can send me an email, and I can send you more information about it. I will put my email below. So you can send me, and I can send you more information about it. If you are planning to do a master, I'll probably stick with one major. If I'm not planning to do a major, a master, I can do a double major. I will try to keep them slightly different. So I will not do, for example, chemical engineering and chemistry. That wouldn't be a good idea.
Why is that, doctor? To broaden your chances at the end? Like, why are you recommending to be different?
It will give you different perspective on the approach of the same idea. So you are talking about the double major, right?
Yeah.
Well, to me, I think if you are doing something that's vastly different, you can look at it from two different points and look at what is the similarity between the two different majors. But if they are way too similar, then it doesn't really make sense.
And the load for double major is, of course, is much. Well, I'm not saying much, but it's higher than the load of a normal, just one major and go on, right?
Okay, in terms of the load, if you look at most curriculums or most typical sequences, I would say probably at least 2 years are similar. So this includes courses like physics, physics 1, physics 2, all the mathematics courses. You'll be taking humanities 3 or 4. You'll be taking business 3 or 4. You'll be taking free elective. All of these, and of course the couple of others, all of these will double count. So they will count for your first major and they will count for your second major. So if you plan it correctly, yes, it is still longer, but it may not take you مثلا 8 years. It may take you 5 years.
Okay. My personal advice regarding masters, from my personal experience and dealing with students, guys, it depends on what you want to do after you graduate. Are you going to continue with your research and go for masters and PhD, or you want it to improve yourself while working? So if you're not planning to go for academics, the master will be beneficial after working and getting some kind of experience, because it will tell you exactly what do you want to specialize in. So be patient about the masters and wait until you get some experience, so you will know exactly what you want to do in the future. That's my own opinion and experience. I don't know if you guys have other opinion about it.
Okay, that's actually can be quite true. It depends on where is your final direction that you are trying to aim for. I would definitely prefer people who are working and then coming back for a master. but then it might be a different issue at that particular point. You can definitely do double major and then do a master. There is no legal stopping you from this. But you have to think whether it's worth the time and worth the effort to do both options.
Absolutely, because when you are like, when you know exactly what are you doing and you're taking the master will be really beneficial for you while working. It will help you at work a lot. So know what you want and then decide whether to take masters in it or no. Again, that's my opinion. It's up to you and your decision. Matar is asking, where can we find the recording? Yes, you can find it on the website of the Majors Day, Matar. Once we upload it, it will be soon there. You can find it there and you can watch it again. And of course, you can share it with your friends if you want.
Also, you can email me at any time for any particular question. And I already posted my email, so you can email me for any clarification at any point. So feel free to email me.
Perfect. So I think this is it. Students don't have any more questions. Thank you very much, Dr. Ali, Dr. Mariam. That was really interesting. I myself, I learned a lot. So I believe, yes, students benefited from this.
And definitely, let me, if I can just add, I mean, for the students, I mean, I believe they're all KU students, right? So yes, you can always find our emails and the list of the faculty in the department. If you wish to ask more questions, feel free to shoot us an email.
Definitely.
I mean, I can as well type it here, but I mean, they're all available on the website also, but I'll add it.
Definitely. And also, guys, please fill up the form. That's very important to track the attendance, because many of you are also like onto guest accounts, so we need to know that you attended this. And yeah, thank you very much all, and I will wish you good luck with your choice and your plans for your future. Dr. Ali, Dr. Mariam, thank you very much for your support.
Thank you, Imam, and good luck to everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
You too.